Welcome to Yogalates. This is Leanna Diane with Epic Fitness. We'll begin in a seat on our mat. Sitting up straight and tall, we'll begin with a few breaths. Inhaling and exhaling to open, expand our lungs, allowing the back of our wrists to rest on our knees. Bringing awareness into our bodies and connecting with our breath. We'll take just a few more breaths here, opening, expanding our lungs to the fullest. Then on the next inhale, reaching our arms overhead. On the exhale, folding forward, keeping our hip bones on the mat. Then walking our hands over to the left side. And then over to the right side. And coming back through the center, we'll walk our hands back toward ourselves. Inhaling, reaching our arms overhead. And on the exhale, dropping the left hand, reaching back with the right. We'll take an inhale to lengthen our spine. On the exhale, twisting and looking over the right shoulder. Inhaling back up through center. On the exhale, switching sides. Dropping the right arm, reaching back with the left. Again, inhaling for length, and on the exhaling, maybe twisting a bit deeper. Inhaling our arms all the way back up through the center. On the exhale, dropping the right arm, reaching over with the left, lengthening through our side. Then inhale back up through center. And on the exhale, switching sides, dropping the left hand, reaching over with the right. On the inhale, coming back up through the center. Exhaling, pressing our palms together, then sweeping them along the sides. We'll inhale, lift our hips, roll our shoulder blades back, opening through our chest and lungs. And then exhale, coming back to a seat. We'll inhale, reach our arms all the way back up. Exhaling, we'll transfer into a tabletop position. In tabletop position, our wrists are below our shoulders, our knees are below our hips, and on the inhale, we'll look toward the ceiling. On the exhale, round through our spine. Inhaling, looking up. Exhale, drawing our navel to our spine, rounding through our back. Inhale, lift our chest, look up. Exhale, navel to spine. Inhale, lift. Exhale. And then coming back through neutral, we'll straighten through our left leg, sinking our toes onto the edge of the mat, maybe even lifting our right knee, then extending that right leg all the way back out and crunching it in toward our nose. Inhaling for length, exhale to crunch. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. 5 breaths total. Then we'll drop the right knee to the mat, lifting the left, reaching forward with the right arm, taking our inhale, and on the exhale, knee and elbow together. Inhale for length, exhale for crunch. Inhale, length, exhale, crunch. 5 breaths total. And on that last one, we'll reach back with our right hand, see if we can catch our left ankle, lifting our chest. And then release, coming back into our tabletop position. We'll switch sides, straightening the right leg. Maybe even lifting our left knee. And then inhaling to extend, exhaling to crunch. Again, there's 5 breaths here. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. Lowering that left knee to the mat. We'll reach forward with the left arm, reaching and lengthening, and then crunching. Drawing our knee and elbow together beneath us. Inhaling for length. Exhale to crunch. Inhale, reach. Exhale, crunch. Again, 5 more breaths. On that last one, we'll reach back and see if we can catch our ankle with our left hand. Again, lifting our chest. And then release right back through our tabletop position. We'll lift our knees, draw our chest toward our thighs, then gradually straighten our legs into a downward dog. Bending one knee and then the other, finding length and space through our spine. opening up our hamstrings, maybe even twisting through our shoulders. And then reaching our right hand toward our left ankle, we'll twist. Then switching sides, reaching the left hand toward the right ankle and twist. And then we'll just alternate tapping our ankle with each hand, opposite sides. And coming back to our downward dog, we'll inhale, lift the right leg toward the sky. Exhale, tuck our knee to our nose. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, lift. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, lift. Exhale, crunch. Then beginning hip circles on the right, drawing big circles on the ceiling, really opening up through our hip, finding our full range of motion, and then maybe trying those circles in reverse, really opening up through the hip. Then inhaling, we'll extend that right leg all the way back up toward the ceiling, then drop it behind our left ankle and bend through our left knee to really stretch through our right calf. Coming back through our downward dog, we'll switch sides, inhaling, lifting the left leg, then crunching it in toward our nose. Inhaling, lift, exhale, crunch. Big dynamic movement here, really opening everything back up. Finding a big range of motion, inhaling to extend, exhaling to crunch. Then again, hip circles on the left. Big circles opening up through the hip, and then maybe taking those circles in the opposite direction, finding that full range of motion through our hip. Then bringing that left foot to the outside of our right calf, we'll bend through our right knee, sinking down to stretch through our left calf. Then stepping back into our downward dog, we'll inhale, lift the right leg. Exhale, step forward between our hands, lowering our left knee, then inhaling, reaching our arms overhead. Interlacing our fingers and flipping our palms toward the ceiling. Then releasing our hands, dropping the left, reaching over with the right. We'll inhale back up through the center, and on the exhale, switching sides, alternating inhales to the center, exhales to the sides. Inhaling back up to the center, exhaling, and just switching between the right and the left. Moving with our breath, finding a little more length and space through each side on the exhales. Trying to keep our balance, and if you need to, you can use yoga blocks here on each side so that you have a little bit closer of a surface to rest on as you alternate. Then on the exhale, lowering your hands to the mat, straightening to the front knee and folding forward, maybe pointing and flexing your right ankle a few times. And when you're ready, maybe folding a little bit deeper, lengthening, stretching through that right hamstring. On the inhale, bending to the front knee, opening up through your hip. You can heel toe your foot to the edge of the mat, twisting and looking up over the right shoulder. If you have a little bit more space, maybe coming down onto your forearms. Then using your right hand to press against the inside edge of your right thigh, twisting and looking up over the right shoulder. Maybe even reaching back with your right hand, catching your left ankle, twisting and looking up over that shoulder up toward the ceiling. Finding a little bit of length and space here, then placing your hands back on the mat. We'll come into a low plank, dropping our heels side to side, working through our obliques, keeping our hips low, and just alternating heels to each side. Then coming back up into a high plank, we'll bend our elbows through chaturanga, inhaling, lifting our chest, and on the exhale, coming right back into our downward dog. Maybe sink a little bit deeper if you have space. Taking a few breaths, lengthening through our spines. Then on the inhale, lifting the left leg. On the exhale, step forward between the hands, lowering the back knee. And on the inhale, reaching our arms all the way back up toward the ceiling, this time crossing our wrists, lifting our chest a little bit higher, finding a little more space. And on the exhale, dropping our left arm, reaching over with the right. We'll inhale back up through the center. Exhale, switching sides. Inhaling, reaching our arms up. Exhale to the opposite side. And just alternating between the right and the left. And again, you can use yoga blocks here if you need, so that you can lower your hands onto a slightly raised surface. Exhaling to each side, maybe a little bit more length and space than the opposite side. Then inhaling, reaching our arms back up through the center. On the exhale, we'll fold forward, straightening to the front leg, maybe pointing and flexing through the front foot. And on the exhale, folding a little bit deeper, finding a little bit more space. Then lifting the chest on the inhale, we'll open up through the hip, heel toeing our foot to the edge of the mat, twisting and looking up over the left shoulder, and then maybe coming down a little bit lower if we have space onto our forearms, sinking again to the outside of that hip to really open up and find some space. Then twisting, looking up over that left shoulder, placing the left hand on the inside of the left thigh, maybe even reaching back to find our right ankle, twisting a little bit deeper, finding a little bit more space. And then releasing our hands back to the mat, we'll step back into our plank, this time stepping one foot out to the side and then the opposite foot to the opposite side. This is kind of a modified version of a plank jack. If you want to make this a little bit harder, you can hop your feet out at the same time and then bring them back together, making this a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more cardio. That's completely optional. And then sinking back into a child's pose. We'll bend our elbows, pressing our palms together and bringing our thumbs toward the back of our neck to stretch our triceps. Then lifting our hips, pressing right back up into downward dog. Then on the inhale, lifting the right leg all the way up toward the ceiling. Then exhale, step forward between your hands, lowering, flattening through your back heel. Then inhale, reaching your arms up toward the ceiling for warrior one. And on the exhale, bringing your arms out to the sides for warrior two. On the inhale, reach your arms up, straightening through the front leg. And on the exhale, back through that warrior two. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, warrior two. Inhale, reach. Exhale, lower. Just alternating inhales and exhales, moving with our breath. We'll take one last inhale, reaching our arms up, then on the exhale, transitioning into triangle, lowering our right hand to the mat, reaching up with the left. Then on the inhale, reverse triangle, reaching up, lengthening to the right side. On the exhale, cartwheeling that right hand back down toward the ground. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale, back to triangle. Inhale, reach, lengthen to the right. Exhale, back to triangle. Just alternating between triangle and reverse triangle. We'll take one last inhale, then on the exhale, cartwheeling our left hand down into revolved triangle. You can bend your front knee if you need to, then stepping back into a side plank on the left. We'll lower our left knee to modify if we need to. Otherwise, we'll keep that bottom leg straight and then just lower our hips down toward the ground, then lift them back up toward the ceiling. A little bit of core conditioning here, just lowering and lifting, trying to keep our left shoulder in line with our left wrist as much as we can, just to keep good alignment here. Then dropping our right hand back into a plank. We'll bend our elbows through chaturanga. Inhale, lifting our chest for upward dog. And on the exhale, coming right back into our downward dog. Just taking a few breaths here, sinking a little deeper through our shoulders. Then on the inhale, lifting the left leg. Exhale, step forward between the hands, flatten the back heel, and on the inhale, reaching our arms all the way overhead, warrior one. On the exhale, lowering our arms into warrior two. Then inhaling, reaching our arms overhead, straightening through the front leg. Exhale, back to warrior two, alternating between warrior two. Inhaling, reaching, lengthening. Exhale, back to warrior. Taking one last inhale, then on the exhale, transitioning into triangle, dropping the left hand, both legs stay straight. Inhale all the way back up into reverse triangle, lengthening the left side, then alternating between triangle and reverse triangle. Exhaling as we lower into triangle. Inhale as we lift and lengthen the left side, just alternating inhales and exhales, again moving with our breath. One last inhale, lengthening the left side, then alternating into our revolved triangle, dropping the right hand to the mat, then shifting over into our side plank. Repeating the second side, you can modify if you need to, but if not, you'll keep your legs straight. Lowering and lifting our hips, trying to keep our right shoulder in line with our right wrist as much as possible. A little bit of conditioning here. Then dropping our left hand to the mat, coming to a forearm plank. We'll hold our plank for a few breaths. Then shifting over onto our left forearm, we'll reach up with the right arm and sweep it under our left. You can modify by dropping that left knee, threading the needle, just reaching up with the right arm and bringing it underneath us. Then shifting to the opposite side, dropping the left arm to the mat, reaching up with the right, again threading it underneath us. You can drop that left knee if you need to. This is the modified version. Or you can straighten that bottom leg for the full variation. Reaching, lengthening, and then lowering through. We'll transition right into our rolling push-ups here, coming to a plank, then back up to a high plank, low plank to high plank, trying to keep our hips low, lifting and lowering. And to make it a little bit better, you can alternate which hand you press up back into that high plank, which one that you lower. A little bit easier, a little bit more dynamic. Then dropping to our knees, we'll sit back in our child's pose. Walking our hands over to the right side, placing the left hand on top of the right. Then coming back to the opposite side, placing the right hand on top of the left. Keeping your hips low. Then right back through the center, reach your fingers a little bit further. Then we'll come back up into our tabletop position for just a moment. Take a big inhale, reach our arms overhead. And on the exhale, bring our arms out to the sides, then back up through the center. Inhaling, reaching overhead. Exhale, lower halfway. Inhale, reach. Exhale, lower. Inhaling, reaching. Exhaling, lowering. One last inhale on the exhale, sweeping our arms behind us, interlace our fingers, dropping our top of our head to our mat, and then reaching our arms overhead, really opening up through our shoulders, trying to round through our spine. On the inhale, release. Place our hands on the mat, lift our knees, spread them wide, bringing our heels together, and find a wide knee tiptoe balance. Inhale, reach our arms, but on the exhale, pressing our palms to heart center. Inhale, reaching our arms up. Exhale, folding forward, reaching underneath our knees and back to catch our ankles. And placing our hands on the mat, we'll inhale, lift our hips, sinking our weight forward, and see if we can come into a crow balance or bakasana. Then lowering into a headstand, we'll extend our legs up toward the ceiling. We'll lower our left leg down toward the mat, tapping the mat, then lowering the right and just alternating right and left. And maybe just a couple of these, and these are optional. Coming back up through our headstand, then lowering back through bakasana or crow balance. And then bringing our toes to the mat, we'll fold forward, straightening our legs, grabbing our elbows, widening our feet a tiny bit, just rocking gently side to side, finding a little bit more length through our spine. Then releasing our hands, stepping our feet a little bit wider, we'll interlace our fingers behind our back, folding forward, tucking our chin into our chest. Then pressing the top of our hands to our lower back, drawing our elbows forward toward the ground. We'll then twist to the right, reaching the right arm up toward the ceiling. Left hand comes to the outside edge of our right foot, maybe even binding around that left leg. That's optional. And then switching sides, dropping the right hand to the outside edge of our left foot, sweeping our right arm all the way up toward the ceiling and maybe behind our back. And then maybe binding on the right. And again, that's optional. Then releasing our hands to the mat, we'll slowly roll all the way up to standing. Big inhale, reaching our arms overhead. On the exhale, pressing our palms to heart center, bringing our feet back to parallel. We'll take another inhale. And on the exhale, swan dive forward, bringing our chest toward our thighs. Inhaling, lifting, halfway lift, and sliding our hands under our feet. And you can bend your knees if you need to, or try to straighten your legs, folding forward. Find a little bit more space here. Then releasing your hands, you can sweep them behind your thighs, bring them in front of your shins, and then fold a little bit deeper. Then releasing our hands back to the mat, we'll walk our hands forward back into our downward dog. Maybe bend one knee, bend the other. Find some more space, opening out through our chest, straightening our legs. Then hop forward between your hands and bring yourself into Navasana or boat pose. Lifting your shins, or you can straighten your legs, coming into a nice solid boat pose. You can even release your hands here for the most difficult variation. We're going to bend through the left knee and then bend through the right, and just alternating, tapping our toes to the mat. And again, you can keep your hands under your thighs for a little bit more support if you need. Hugging your thighs into your chest, maybe even try a wide leg variation of boat pose. So legs are nice and wide, hands on your heels, and if you need to keep a bend in your knees, you can, or you can keep your hands under your thighs. We'll try releasing one arm and then the other for the hardest variation. So releasing, trying to keep our balance here, lots of core strength, hamstring and quad strength, keeping everything stable, just alternating sides, releasing and regripping. Then bending your knees, bringing the soles of your feet together. See if you can maintain your balance. Chest is lifted. Then releasing your feet to the mat. Inhale, lengthen your spine. Maybe rock it out side to side a few times. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, begin to fold forward. You can use your elbows on the inside of your thighs to press your knees a little bit closer to the ground. Maybe find a little bit more space here. Then bringing your knees back together. We'll come onto our back, tucking our knees into our chest, just rocking gently side to side. Then placing our feet on the mat, hips width apart, lengthening our spine nice and neutral. We'll lift our hips up toward the ceiling. On the inhale, exhale, lower to the mat. Inhale, press. Exhale, lower. Inhale, hips high. Exhale, lowering back down. Then alternating, lifting our heels, right and then left, keeping our hips pressing high. Then extending our right leg up toward the ceiling, bending our knee, placing our right ankle on top of our left thigh. We'll continue pressing our hips up toward the ceiling. Inhale as we press our hips high. Exhale as we lower, just tapping the mat. Then releasing the right leg, lowering it back down to the mat. We'll switch sides. Inhale, lift the left, place the left ankle on top of the right thigh. Then lowering our hips. Inhale as we press up toward the ceiling. Exhale as we lower. Releasing the left leg back to the mat, lowering our hips. We'll tuck our knees into our chest, just rock again side to side. Then opening up our knees and just making circles on the ceiling, releasing any tension from our lower back. Then reversing directions. Then straightening our left leg, bringing it down toward the mat. We'll tuck our right knee into our chest, gradually straightening through the right leg, and then switching sides, giving ourselves 2 gentle tugs on each side as we alternate. And if you want to keep that front or top knee bent, you can. That's always an option. Otherwise, keeping our legs straight and just switching sides between right and left. We'll transition right into bicycles here, crossing our right elbow toward our left knee and then alternating sides, trying to keep that extended leg as low as possible, core tight, and our spine nice and neutral as we alternate right and left. Then tucking our knees into our chest, we'll extend our legs up toward the ceiling. Inhale, reach our arms overhead. Exhale, draw them along our sides. And then bending through our knees, coming into reverse tabletop position. We'll inhale as we pump through our arms for 5 counts. And then exhale for 5 counts. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a total of 10 breaths. Tucking our knees back into our chest, we'll then spread our legs wide into a straddle, reaching our arms overhead on the exhale, crunching to reach through our legs. Inhale overhead, exhale crunch. And if you want to bring one hand back behind your head, you can for a little bit of extra support. You can even alternate which hand is behind your head, kind of add a little bit of variety here. So inhale, reach and lengthen, exhale, crunching between our legs. We'll finish by reaching between our legs and just pulsing little pulses, finding a little bit more crunch. Maybe even keep your hands behind the back of your head if you've got a sensitive neck. And then we'll drop our legs to the sides, just closing to each side, opening back up to the straddle. Exhale, close to the side. Inhale to the center. Exhale, close. And if you need to keep your knees slightly bent here, you can. Then tucking your knees back into your chest, we'll lower our feet back onto the mat, bringing our arms along our sides, and maybe pressing up into a bridge. Hips pressing high. Taking a few breaths here, then lowering hips back down onto the mat. We'll tuck our knees back into our chest and rock gently side to side. We'll roll over onto our left side, extending through the bottom side of our body, drawing our toes slightly forward, keeping our core nice and neutral and tight. And we'll begin by bending through our right knee, extending through that leg, and then flexing our foot on the way back down. Bending, straightening, and then flexing that foot on the way back down. Then reversing directions, kicking straight up with that top leg, bending the knee, sliding it along the bottom leg. Then catching that leg and giving yourself a gentle stretch on the right. Releasing your legs back together, we'll lift our toes and just flutter kick our feet forward and back, maybe even reaching up with that right top arm, using a little bit more balance, a little bit more stability as we flutter our feet forward and back. Then bending that top knee and bringing that top arm together to crunch. Inhale for length, reaching that top arm overhead. Exhale, crunch, bringing that knee and elbow together. Inhale, reach. Exhale, crunch. Then bending that top knee, bringing it behind the bottom leg, and then lifting and lowering the supporting leg. Then bend the bottom leg to bring the soles of your feet together, and then lift and lower that top knee to open up through your hips. And if you want to make this a little bit harder, extend the top leg up toward the ceiling and then lower it down to the front, lifting and lowering. Then extending that top leg up toward the ceiling if it's not already there, and just draw circles on the ceiling. The smaller and the faster that you can make your circles, the better this will be. A little bit more conditioning, a little bit more core to keep it stable. And then try those circles in reverse, so opposite direction. Then bend both knees into your chest, bring your top elbow and knees together, and then just extend, straighten your legs, and then tuck that top elbow back in toward your knees. You're kind of turning up toward the ceiling at about a 45-degree angle. So you're not laying on your back and you're not laying on your side. You're kind of halfway in between. So kind of a little bit different core exercise here. Then switching to the opposite side, we'll now be laying on our right side. Again, we're drawing our toes slightly forward, lengthening to the bottom side of our body, and then extending and lowering that top leg. So bending the knee, drawing it all the way up toward the ceiling, and then lowering back down. Flexing through our foot to stretch through our calf, finding our maximum extension here. Then reversing directions, we'll kick up with that top leg, bend the knee, then slide it along the supporting leg. And on the last one, catching that leg and giving ourselves a gentle stretch, really lengthening, opening up through the hamstring. Moving right into flutter kicks here. Then maybe even reaching up with that top hand, finding a little bit of balance, core stability. Then crunching along the side of our body, reaching the top arm overhead, crunching that top knee toward the top elbow. Really reaching and lengthening with every extension here. Inhaling for length, exhaling as we crunch. Then dropping the top leg behind our supporting leg, we'll lift and lower that bottom leg, using our core to keep ourselves stable. Then bending through the knees, drawing the top of our thighs toward our chest. We'll lift the top leg, opening and closing. And if we want to make this a little bit more challenging, we'll extend the top leg toward the ceiling and then lower it down toward the front. Then lifting the top leg back up toward the ceiling, we'll begin to make little circles on the ceiling. Again, the quicker, the faster that we can make these circles, and the smaller that we can make these circles, the more control this is going to take. So this will be a little bit better, a little bit more challenge. Then taking these circles in reverse. Again, trying to quicken that circle if we can. Keep it as small as possible and keeping the rest of our body as stable as possible. Then straightening through our bottom leg, bringing our legs together. We'll tuck our knees into our chest, dropping our top arm to bring our knees and elbows together. Again, we're facing up toward the ceiling at about a 45-degree angle. So we're not on our backs, we're not on our side, we're kind of in between. So just a little bit of a different challenge here. Again, inhaling for length, exhale to crunch. Then rolling over onto our bellies, we'll reach our fingers forward, lengthen through our spine, really stretch and lengthen our body, and then move right into flutter kicks here. Just lifting and lowering our legs. Then take a moment to fold your arms, rest your forehead on your forearms, and just take a few breaths. Then beginning our swimmers again, we'll transition into the breaststroke variation of our swimmers by sweeping our arms wide, making big circles with our arms, and then spreading our legs wide and narrow, and just kind of alternating arms and legs. And then releasing, taking just a moment to breathe and relax. Then lifting and pressing our hips up into our downward dog. Again, you can pedal your feet a few times, lengthening through your spine, maybe even twist a little bit to each side. drawing the opposite knee to the opposite side, sinking back into our downward dog. We'll inhale, lift the right leg all the way up, and on the exhale, drawing our right leg forward, coming into a pigeon, placing the top of our left thigh on the mat, opening up through our hips if we have space, otherwise pulling that right leg back in a little bit closer if our knees are a little bit too sensitive. Then we'll inhale, lengthen our spine, and on the exhale, fold forward. Taking a few breaths here, just allowing ourselves the time and space to really open up through the right hip. Then inhale, reaching the left arm up toward the ceiling, then exhale, sweeping it under the right, adding in a bit of a twist, maybe even sweep the right arm up behind our back and reach for that foot underneath us. Doesn't matter if you can grab it or not, just reaching toward it, maybe twisting a little deeper. You can use your left arm that's underneath you and press against that right shoulder to find a little bit more space. Then release. Inhale, lifting our chest. We'll reach back with the left hand, see if we can catch our left foot, maybe pulling that foot in nice and tight, stretching through our quad on the left. Maybe even catch an elbow and add a bind here, a couple different bind variations that you can try, interlacing your fingers overhead, or maybe even grabbing that foot with the opposite hand and then really lifting the chest. And this is a little bit more advanced, so you can stick with the more basic variations if you prefer. And then we'll sweep that left leg forward, cross it over the right knee, lengthening through our spine, really hug that left leg in nice and tight. Then inhale and reach up with the right arm, and on the exhale, twisting, bringing that right arm to the outside edge of our left thigh, looking over our left shoulder, sweeping the left arm behind our back. And maybe even adding a bind here, reaching the left arm behind our back, see if we can catch the wrist of the right arm. Twisting and looking over that left shoulder. Then sweeping our arms over to the right side. We'll keep our feet exactly as they are as we lift our hips and then twist all the way into reverse. We just switch to the opposite side. Inhale, reach the left arm up, bring it to the outside edge of our right thigh, twisting and looking over the right shoulder. We'll inhale for length, and on the exhale, twist. Maybe a little bit deeper, maybe adding a bind here, just like the opposite side. If you can, catch fingers, catch something. Maybe reach that right arm and catch that left wrist. Then release. We'll sweep that right leg all the way back behind us, coming into pigeon on the opposite side. Inhale, lifting our chest, checking our alignment here, making sure the right thigh is pressing onto the mat. And on the exhale, we'll fold forward, again crossing our arms, creating a space to rest our forehead. Taking a few more breaths here, allowing our hips to open, keeping our spine lengthened and kind of melting into this pose. Then inhale, reaching up with the right arm. On the exhale, sweeping it underneath the left. We're twisting and looking under that left arm, maybe even sweeping the left arm behind our back and see if we can catch the foot beneath us. We can use our right arm, bend our elbow to support our head, or maybe even twist a little deeper by pressing up against the front side of that left shoulder. Then coming back up into our pigeon, we'll reach back with the right hand, bending the right knee. Pull that foot in a little bit closer if we can, really stretching through our quad. And if you want to add a bind here, you're more than welcome to. Couple different variations here. You can just catch your fingers overhead. You can try taking that opposite hand, reaching toward your foot. Kind of adding in a twist here. A little bit deeper of a stretch, definitely a little bit more advanced. Then release. We'll sweep that right leg forward, tucking our knees into our chest and rolling down onto our back. We'll come into a happy baby here, grabbing the outside edges of our feet and just rocking gently side to side, massaging through our lower back, opening up through our hips, maybe even straightening through our legs for a wide leg, straight leg variation of happy baby. Trying to bring our toes toward the ground. You can point and flex your feet. You can also try bending through one knee, pulling it in toward your chest, a little bit more of a hip stretch on that side. And you can try that on both sides. Then tucking your knees back into your chest, we'll lower our feet onto the mat, reaching our arms overhead, and then just drop our knees gently side to side for windshield wipers, side to side. Maybe even grab our left wrist with our right hand and pull it over to the right side, adding a little bit more length and stretch through the left, and then try alternating sides, grabbing the right wrist with the left hand and pulling it over to the left side as we drop our knees side to side, finding a little bit more space and length through the torso of our body. Then interlacing our fingers and flipping our palms all the way overhead, continuing to drop our knees side to side. Big deep stretch overhead. Maybe spreading our knees wide and bringing them narrow, opening up through our hips. Then we'll tuck our knees back into our chest, rocking gently side to side. And then release, taking a big inhale, reaching our arms overhead, lengthening through our body, finding as much length and space here as possible. And on the exhale, lowering our arms to our sides, allowing our feet to fall out to the sides. We'll transition into Shavasana from here, taking the last few minutes to just melt into our mat, clearing our minds, releasing any remaining tension from our bodies, and resting in Shavasana. Beginning to awaken from Shavasana, you can open your eyes, bringing a little bit of feeling and life into your fingers and toes, bringing awareness back into your body, then taking a big inhale, reaching your arms overhead. And on the exhale, tucking your knees into your chest, maybe rocking gently side to side and gradually making your way back to a seat on your mat. We'll finish where we started, allowing the back of our wrists to rest on our knees, chest is lifted, taking a few breaths here. Then on the inhale, we're reaching our arms over our head, taking one last deep inhale, opening, expanding our lungs to the fullest, and on the exhale, pressing our palms to heart center. Thank you for joining me. It was my honor and privilege to guide you in your practice. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.